here on WaveTalkers Live. It's another one of our coffee bar episodes where we take your WinLink questions, your MCOM related questions, and we do our best to try and answer them. I'm joined by my co-host Dan NR6V and our special guest Scott KM6RFB. Scott was here last week and was talking about the COM-T stuff. David W0DHG is out on assignment this week. He's actually taking an advanced rock climbing course, and he's kind of hanging out right now. He may be able to stop in and join us at some point, but we will see how that goes. In the meantime, let's get on with our check-in. Let me pull the guys down here real quick, and we will walk through the check-in process. So if you have access to WinLink, go ahead and send us a WinLink check-in. Send it to all three of our call signs, W0DHG, NR6V, W6AH, and our tactical address, WaveTalkers. In the comment section of the standard WinLink check-in form, let us know what your current radio-related passion project is. Let's go ahead and walk through that process of sending in a WinLink check-in here really briefly before we get into today's show. So let me switch over to the PC here. And once you get your copy of WinLink up and running, what you want to do is come up here to the top toolbar, and you can either click on this little icon right here at the left-hand side. That's the new message button, or you can come up to the message section and just select new message. Both of those work equally as well. When the new message window opens up, what you want to do is up here at the top, there's a button for select template. Go ahead and give that a click. That's going to open up the WinLink Template Manager. The current version of that that I'm using is version 1.0.245.0. If you have an older version of the templates, then go ahead and quit WinLink, and when you launch it again, it should prompt you, if there's a new version, to go ahead and download, install the new version. And then likewise, if there's a new version of the templates, it'll go ahead and prompt you to download and install those. What you want to do then is you want to click the little plus sign next to the standard templates, come down here to the section where you find the general forms section, give that a click. Down near the bottom of that list, you'll find WinLink check-in.txt. That's the check-in form right there. What you want to do is give that a double click. And if the demo gods are with you, it should open up in your web browser of choice. Up here at the top, you're able to have what your agency that you support or your local group. If you have not set that up, you can click the little setup button right here, and it will ask you just what do you want to fill into that location. It's a great way to customize your forms so that they come in from your agency or your group that you're operating with. Let's go through the quick form here. Here's the station. At the first question is date and time. If you just give that a click, what it's going to do is going to open up a little pull down, and it's going to set the form to your computer's current date and time. Just go ahead and give that an OK. You always want to set that. Then you want to come down here to the next line. This is where you're going to put in all of our call signs. Just separate those with a semicolon. That's how you add additional addresses here. W6AH, W0DHG, NR6V, and WaveTalkers. If you'd like to add your own address so that you get a copy, you can't send a WinLink message to your own WinLink to your own call sign. But what you can do is you can put in a real world email address, and you'll get a copy of the form yourself. And it's a great way to get some practice doing that. Next, you want to put in the from. That's going to be your call sign. Station contact name is your handle, your first name. Any initial operators, that would be any other operators that are sitting there watching the show with you. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks a lot for watching us there. Be sure to send in your WinLink check-in. Even if you're watching it later in the week or later after this is live, go ahead and send in a WinLink check-in. We love to see those and check everybody in. In the session section, this is an exercise for the service. Let us know whether you're sending this in via amateur radio or the Shares network. You can let us know what band you're going to be sending that traffic in on. The session type, telnet if you're using the internet or if you're using one of these RF modes, go ahead and select those and let us know which of those you are using. The location is your location where you're currently located. Your latitude and longitude should be automatically filled in for you, either based on the center of your grid square that you noted for where you're at. And that's a good place to note that if you're out operating portable and you're doing WinLink from a portable location, you always want to go into the settings section and update your grid square so that your location information shows up correctly. And then don't forget to undo that when you get back to your main location, your main home. The next part down here is the comments section. This is where we want you to let us know, what is your current radio related passion project that you're working on? Go ahead and fill that in. Just give us a quick little note about what that is. Then hit the submit button. Once you submit it, you'll get a couple of pop-ups there, and just keep clicking OK. They go away, I find, when you just keep clicking OK on those. And ultimately, you'll get down to a blank browser window. When you do, just go ahead and close your browser window. All of those data should be then filled into the message. You can simply use the post to outbox button here in the upper left-hand corner. And when you do that, you'll see your outbox increment by one more. And you can then come up here and use the open session button to open up and send that via whatever means you would like. I'm going to click start, and we'll see if any check-ins are coming in. And it looks like quite a few are coming in from around the world. We'll download those now, and later in the episode, down near the end of it, we will check back in and see. We'll bring up a map and show where everyone is checking in from all around the world. So while that is going on, let's go ahead and jump over to the slides again, and let's get into today's topic. Today, we are doing another one of our WinLink MCOM coffee bar episodes, is what we call it. It's kind of the place to kind of like show up and ask us some questions. We'll do our best to come up with some answers for everyone, and try and answer as many questions as we can. And anything that's left in the queue, we will then pick up for the next time we do a coffee bar episode. In order to submit your questions, what you can do is you can go to cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar, and there's a short little form that just has a place for you to go ahead and fill in that question. Fill in your question, and we'll take it on when it comes in. So yesterday, the WaveTalkers crew was recognized by the WinLink development team and the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation. We were all down in San Diego at a reception we got invited to. It was very lovely for us to be able to go down and meet with the folks there. And the team did give us all these really nice plaques. Dan, let me bring you up on screen. I think you've got yours as well. Let me make sure that you show up as well for everyone. There you go. Dan's got his plaque. David got one as well. It was really nice to be able to go down and meet with everyone there. We got to meet Steve Waterman in person, and all the rest of the WinLink development team. The Amateur Radio Safety Foundation board was all in attendance, as well as a lot of folks from across the industry. It was a really fun event, a great dinner. Dan, anything you'd like to bring in on that? Anything you want to talk about from the dinner yesterday? Oh, do you have audio?
He's muted.
Oh, he's muted. He's having audio issues. Okay, so I mean, it was absolutely wonderful event. Thank you all so much. It was really nice. The plaques say the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation Board of Directors wishes to show appreciation to the WaveTalkers virtual education series for the willingness to embrace, educate, and mentor existing and potential users of the WinLink Global Radio email system. It was a really nice event. Wonderful folks there for that. So thanks so much to everyone for that. We were super excited. Let me go ahead and pull Dan down for a second. And let's see. Unable to unmute. Oh, I see. Stand by 1 second. Let me fix that for Dan. There you go. You should be able to unmute now.
There you go.
Anything you want to add to about that? Sorry, that was part of I had to drop out just before the show and do a reboot.
Yeah, no, it was a really nice event. Beautiful home. Home is kind of an understatement. Kind of almost like a ranch, and really nice company, a lot of really smart people, and it was an enjoyable night. long drive, but fortunately we got to be passengers, and Marty Wall, 6VI, volunteered to drive. So
that was wonderful.
that
That
was
was so
nice.
great. It's a long way from Ventura down to San Diego. I didn't get home till well after 9 o'clock last night. So, and we left pretty early. So, very cool. All right, let's get into some of the questions for today. Let me jump back over to here and we'll advance off. There's the link, by the way. If you want to send in a question, it's cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar, and we all have that the results of that showing up on our screen, so we will be able to pick those up, and we'll take as many of these as we can. The first question that we got in, this one came from November 0 Delta Bravo Hotel. They ask, I only do MCOM currently and use POTA activations almost every weekend to keep my skills up and going, portable, and all that entails. That is an excellent way to practice your MCOM skills, by the way, is going and operating POTA activations. It really gets you out and helps with that. I said, I'm needing a better method of packing up my Xiegu G90 XPA 125B amplifier. A great little station, by the way. That's a really nice way of being able to get out 100 watts and still just sip power when you're just sitting there operating. Says, I'm leaning towards a good waterproof hard case. It has extendable handle and wheels. Any suggestions greatly appreciated. Absolutely. Let's walk through a couple of the things that we use. So these are three of the common cases that I use all of the time. Over on the left, this is the Pelican 1500. Those run about $200, and it's just kind of like a briefcase style. There's no wheels on it. There's just the one handle for carrying it. So it's kind of like a smaller briefcase. This is what I'll oftentimes transport my ICOM 7300 in as a complete station. It all packs down in there. All of these can come with the plug-in fill foam, so you're able to cut out the foam that comes inside of the case and be able to customize it specifically for your needs. The case in the middle, the Pelican 1510, that's pretty much my go-to case. This is, if I was going to suggest one case, it's going to be this one. The price is a little bit higher. They start at about $250 and they go up from there. It's a really good size. You can carry it in your carry-on luggage, so it's great for transporting it. These things are pretty much, I mean, they're not bulletproof, but they're gorilla proof when you drop your bags in the airlines and they have to go through all of the luggage handlers there. They do manage to survive and protect your gear very well. The one on the right, this one's you can pick these up at Harbor Freight. This one's called an Apache. It's the 5800. They run about $100. Dan, you use that case pretty extensively, I think, or you've used it in the past. Let me bring you up. Anything you want to talk about with that?
Yeah, I actually use a smaller version than that, but I have a Xiegu G90, which by the way, I love. That's what I run my HF gateway on, and I think I'm almost at 2,300 contacts worldwide doing FT8 with it. So the G90 is a great radio. Have not tried that amplifier, but that might have to be something for my future. But what I do have is I have the Xiegu X6100, and I have that in a case. And this is how I have it packed. I have my little Microsoft Surface laptop, which works out really nicely. Of course, I carry documentation. I can't seem to memorize the band plan, so I keep a laminated copy of that. But here's my setup, and I've got the radio, and just all the essentials for it. Obviously, microphone. I've become a real fan of these lithium iron phosphate little charge batteries. What you want to look for on these is you want to find one with USB-C PD or power delivery, because that will take advantage of USB-C. You can run it. I think you can do. I know you do 12 volts. I think you can do 9 volts or 5 volts, depending on what your need is. but this little battery will run this radio probably most of the day. So very cool, easy way to do it. Certainly it gets you up and running for quite a while you make arrangements for more power if you're going to need it. With the 6100, the one thing that everybody hates about it is the speaker. It's terrible. So I have this little speaker I got on Amazon that plugs into the headphone jack. But then it's cables, the mouse, adapters, all go within this case. I carry power supplies so I can recharge things if I need to. One of the reasons why we like the Microsoft Surface so much is they're natively 12 volts. So it's really easy to power those off the same battery or another 12-volt battery as to what you're running. But the main thing is to make sure you've got all the cables you need. If you're doing digital, you're going to need, for this radio, you just need a USB cable, the USB-C cable that will plug into your laptop because the modem and everything's built in. But that's it. And this, I think this is the 3800 case, which you can get on sale at Harbor Freight for about $35. It's been fine for me. Chris is going to tell you another perspective on that. I've not tried to carry this on an airplane or do anything where it gets beat up a lot. And Chris, I'll send it back to you for commentary.
Yeah. So while you have your case open and up on screen, pretty much all of these Pelican or Pelican-like cases all have a similar kind of foam arrangement. That's that pluck and pick foam. It's got a grid pattern to it, so you're able to cut the foam out to meet the needs of whatever your particular station is for what you want to put in there. There's oftentimes a ring of foam that goes around the outside, and then these blocks of foam that go on the inside with the little pieces you can pluck out of there. And the lids usually have that kind of egg crate foam in it, so it really does help protect your gear really nicely in those. With the cases that I've got, and I use Pelicans pretty extensively professionally with a lot of the other work that I do. So I've got several of these Pelican cases, and I was looking for some cheap alternatives to some of the Pelicans because they do run pretty expensive. And I've picked up several of these Apache 5800s from Harbor Freight. They are almost identical in size and form factor to the Pelican 1510s. So they make a pretty nice substitute for that size. You can take them and carry on and so forth. However, what I've found is that they are nowhere near the quality as what a Pelican is, nor do they protect your gear as well. So for instance, this summer, I ended up traveling for work quite a bit. And I literally took both of these Pelicans with me on the trips and was traveling around the country using them with a lot of gear inside of them. And when I went to the airport to pick up my bags as they were sliding off the luggage tray, the Pelican came down just fine, absolutely no problem. But the other Apache that I had that had similar gear in it, when it slid down off the ramp, the wheels and the whole bottom of the case just exploded in a bunch of pieces. I also have had two of them where anytime you've got these, when you go to close the lid on them, invariably you're going to have something kind of sticks out of the side a little bit. A lot of times I pack in those the little stuff sack kind of bags, and had one with just a little thin piece of line hanging out. And when I clamped it down, it actually exploded the entire back of the case off of it where the hinge was. So you definitely want to be careful with these. They are a very good value as far as being cheaper than the full-blown Pelican. But when you're carrying around all of your radio gear, which we spend a lot of money on, it might be worth it to go ahead and invest in the full-on Pelican. Again, if I was going to suggest just one, I think this is kind of like the ideal, both size and shape. I repurpose this Pelican all the time. Put some markings on the outside of it also that help you really identify that it's yours, what the gear is inside that you've got. not necessarily the equipment that you have inside, but so that you can identify, especially if you end up with multiples of these, what the configuration of gear that you've got in there is.
Chris, Brian
Yeah.
shared a photo that I put up on screen of his setup, which is a G90 with the amplifier.
Oh, perfect.
So that's you should be seeing that now.
Perfect. Yeah, let me pull mine down so we can see that a bit bigger full screen. Very nice. Yeah, so this is that amplifier that's there, and you can see all the gear is packed in here pretty tightly. It looks like he's got one of the foam insert kits that they sell. I'm not sure if this, it looks like this is a Pelican as opposed to the maybe he can put in the chat. Brian, which one is this? Is this a Pelican or is this the this is the Nanook. Yeah, there's a couple of other brands of these aside from Pelican. So this one is the Nanook. It doesn't have the foam insert. It's got the Velcro. These look like camera inserts from a camera backpack that he's using to separate the gear, but creating little pockets in here to keep all of your gear organized so that it all doesn't rattle around and keeps it well protected. Finding one where you can get some of these amps in so that they either stand up or lay down and are well protected can be a little bit of a challenge for that. So thanks very much for sharing that one there. Let me pull Dan back down. There we are. This is another option. These are cases like these are sold at a lot of the big box home stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, and so forth. Rigid makes them, Craftsman makes them. There's a bunch of them out on the market. Oftentimes you'll get these as kits. Oh, there, Scott's got looks like he's got one as well that he's holding up. What, you want to hold that back up, Scott? And a lot of these kits will actually stack together. Some of them will come with an integrated hand truck as well. You can pick them up and repurpose them for whatever it is that you need. Sometimes they'll have little trays in the top or other little separators in there. These work pretty well because they do have the gasket seal and they clamp down and they will protect your gear pretty well. A few other options that you may want to think about. This is the kind of my portable go box. This is for my VHF UHF, and it's a little plastic ammo can that I've converted into a little go box here. I use Velcro on the outside for the radio head and the external speaker. On the top of it, I've put inserts in here for power poles, a 12-volt socket connection. This has got some USB ports in here. And I've put in two circuits in here, one circuit on the top for all of the charging and external power. And then the second circuit, which actually drives the radio. On the top, I've moved the ports for my radio up to the outside, including an antenna port. And then if you look inside of the box, this is what the inside is wired. It's not super neat in there, but I've got a 30 amp hour battery in there. I've got the body of the radio that's set up in here, and everything does close up, and it creates a nice, pretty self-contained setup for being able to take out into the field and operate. So something like that, the little ammo cans work pretty well for getting your gear in there. They take a little bit more creativity in order to get everything kind of packed into that location. This is another option that's pretty popular for taking your gear out into the field. This is called a gator box, and this is for rack-mounted equipment typically. They look something like this on the inside. This happens to be a 6U rack, and the U stands for the unit. So this bottom panel here is 1U or 1 unit. There's another one here, and so forth. You can get little shelves to be able to mount gear into these. They've got a little space in the front, so sometimes you can get little LED lights to be able to set up and operate. Here I've got multiple different small speakers that are set up that are for each of the different bands, the different radios that are in here. You can load in all of your gear. There's a power supply on the behind these speakers, so everything can be literally powered on by just flipping a single switch. On the back side of it, this particular box can be run off of AC power. So it's got an AC plug here. So I've got AC power. I can just simply plug that in and it powers up the whole rig. Alternatively, with a external battery, I can plug into an external port here on the rig runner and then power everything just off of a battery, off of 12 volts. And we've moved all of the antenna connections here out to the outside on the back. So that's another option. And Gator boxes, you can pick them up. You can find them used. A lot of production and IT companies use these. And so oftentimes we'll sell off some of the old ones. Sometimes you can find good deals on those on eBay and other locations like that. Otherwise, you can find them online. Certainly, they sell them on Amazon. The place that I usually would get something like this would be either Sweetwater or B&H. Both ship really quickly and have a good selection of gear that's out there. So those are some options there. This is the current setup that I've been using, and I took this past weekend down to San Diego with for the Hamtastic event. The bag on the left is a soft bag, and it's got just a large zipper pouch here on the top and a kind of big zipper pouch on the front. This is an older bag that I had from a company called Flight Master. It's a flight bag. And then the bag on the right is my ICOM 705 kit. So when you unpack it, this is what I've got in that bag. Here in the Flight Master, I've got a 60-watt PowerFilm solar panel, the Buddy Pole Power Mini with a 30 amp hour battery. So I can provide all of the power for the amp. Now I'm using the Elecraft 100-watt amp. For the portable station. It's one that I had here, so I've been taking it and using that. And then this is inside of my ICOM 705 kit. There's a 12 amp hour battery, and this is what I use to power the 705. It gets the 705 up to 100 watts. I'm sorry, up to 10 watts. And then I can plug in the 100-watt amp and get me up to 100 watts with that. And then this kit has all of the cabling and so forth that I would need in order to be able to run the whole station like that. Then Scott, let me bring you up because you've got a really nice collection of repurposed gear that you've added.
So this, I can't remember the model number on this Pelican. It was used as an ALS box, Advanced Life Support box for paramedics, and we got away from it, and it was due to be discarded, and so I decided to repurpose the box. I took out the drug holders and put in a pouch in the lid, and then in the bottom I put the pluck and pull foam to carry my HF radio out there if I need to. So just a general repurpose. And you can obviously see what this one was used for. This was a ventilator. And this is the 1510 like Dan's or like Chris's. And it was due to be disposed of. And so there was 4 of these, so I took 2 of them and rebuilt the inside of it to house some radios. The top radio is a Kenwood TK5710, and the bottom one is a Kenwood TK5810, which is VHF UHF radio. 2 speakers, and then the actual radios are actually down here in the bottom. And this is all held in by industrial strength Velcro.
That's amazing stuff.
It doesn't move, and it's an act of God in Congress to get it to release. And I found it at Lowe's. Worked really well, and the foam helps hold everything inside and give some protection for down below. And then you'll notice down here in the bottom corner is a hole. Well, this is the inside. So I put straps in here. I Velcroed in straps to hold the radios in so they don't go anywhere. And all the wiring runs up behind. And so when this housed the ventilator, all the cables came out the side here. This is a waterproof power port. So I just pull the cables through and hook everything up. These were to be tossed and thrown away. This has a handle and wheels on it. So I repurpose a lot of Pelican cases that are due for the scrap pile. And so I put a link in the chat for a company called Case Club based in Anaheim, and they will actually build inserts for your cases. You tell them what you want, and they will custom make an insert for your equipment, which is really nice. I've actually used some of their stuff for my other hobby, um, for firearms. And so they custom make my inserts for me, which is really nice, and they're not too expensive.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
David asked in chat about whether you can get the pluck and play foam, and there is a good selection of it on Amazon. So that if you are repurposing a box like Scott did, and the foam has already been picked apart for something else, you can get replacement foam for it, so you can redo it if you repurposing a box. Or one of the things the Gator box that Chris mentioned and these foam boxes is, most of us know that we never stay with the same thing. You build a kit, it works, but you see somebody else has a better idea, or your needs change. And the nice thing about the Gator boxes, the nice thing about the Pelican boxes, is you can reconfigure them pretty easily. My first Go box I built, I carefully cut a plate out to take the face of the radio and the knobs, and which was really tedious to do with the tools I had available. And then my needs changed, and I'm really kind of locked into that face. So I like the idea of something that's reconfigurable if you, I won't say if your needs change, when your needs change.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting, Dan, that you said that, is because almost all the pluck and pull foam I use has been repurposed pluck and pull foam from Pelican cases that were going to get tossed, and I was able to trim down, or we had extra inserts. I was able to trim it down to fit into these cases. And a lot of people don't like the pluck and pull for some reason, because it falls apart and it gets kind of ugly over a period of time. I found a simple fix for that: spray adhesive. The 3M spray adhesive, I spray it over the top of those, and it locks the foam back together, so it doesn't come apart, and it's real simple stuff.
Another
there
thing
also
that
is a specific adhesive for foam that works real nicely. I'll see if I can find a link. I did buy some at one point. So
yeah, another trick that you can use, especially if you've got recycled foam, stuff that you've either repacked from, say, packages that have shown up from Amazon. A lot of times, whenever packages come in, or if I buy a product and it's got really nice foam inside, I'll save that and reuse it. A lot of times, I'll cut it down to a size that's going to work, maybe fold it up to make it the right thickness that I'm looking for, and then do like gaff tape around it to create more of a more permanent pad of something that will fit in the various different cases. And I should note, none of this is sponsored by any of these companies. And there's a lot of other brands that are out there aside from Pelican, aside from the Gator boxes. So hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea. I saw somebody posted in the chat on YouTube about the Milwaukee boxes that stack really nicely as well. So there are lots of them out there. You just kind of find one that works for you. A lot of times you can find some repurposed toolboxes or other boxes that are out there that'll work for your equipment. So
and the last thing that I use, and I didn't provide a picture of it, I put a link in the chat for Zargus cases. They're metal type cases, and believe it or not, after doing some research and talking to some people, they're EMP proof.
Oh.
And with a little bit of work, you can make them even more EMP proof. They said because any penetration through the box allows EMP to pass through. So if there's rivets in the box, or have a handle that's holding it together, or any seam is a penetration in the box. And so what they recommend doing is taking aluminum duct tape that you would wrap around air conditioning ducts, and putting that over the seam. And what that does is it seals the portal through the box, improving the EMP on it. And then inside is foam. And then I put all my radio gear in anti-static bags.
Yeah.
And so now I've got an EMP proof box.
That's nice. Yeah, so these are really nice. They're certainly a little more high dollar ones. I've not used these. These are really nice quality boxes that are out there. And that is Zarges ZARGESUSA.com.
Oh, hang on, I'll go grab mine.
Okay. Real nice looking boxes there that may be an option for folks to look at. Hopefully that gives you, there you go.
That's a monster.
That is a monster box right there. You pack a lot of.
It looks light though.
It does look light.
It's all aluminum. It's very light. And so I don't know if you can see, but right here, the aluminum tape. So this was a rivet that was going through the box to hold something inside. And so all the spots, even along the hinge back here, I've aluminum taped to seal that portal through the box, improving its EMP rating.
I actually saw a study, because there is purpose-built EMP tape, and they actually had better results with the good aluminum air conditioning. What we all call duct tape isn't really, I mean, you'd never want to use it on ducts, but the aluminum stuff worked very well in these tests. If
you go to both Home Depot and Lowe's carries it, it's you can find it in the air conditioning duct section. And it is an aluminum tape. And what I found is that the glue on that stuff is conductive. So if you coat something, it produces a really nice effect with that. Here's the place if you want to submit a question to a cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar. There you go. There's Scott's got the it's an actual aluminum back tape that's there, and it's really thin. It's got a layer that you pull off, and the adhesive is underneath of that layer. It sticks down really nicely. That is the really good stuff for being able to make something electrically connected there. Let me pull the guys down. Let's move on to the next question. We've got quite a few questions here that have come in, so we're going to try and get through several of these. Come back over here. The next one comes in is from Golf Zero Tango Radio Tango. Says, with WinLink able to handle many participants during the Shakeout 2023 exercise, weekly check-ins, and so forth, what methodologies are used to parse data out of messages? That's a great question. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to my copy of WinLink here, and let's walk through a quick example of how you might do that. So every week you guys see me click on the little globe icon here in the toolbar, and that globe icon brings up the maps and CSV, KML files and forms. And this is really the key to making all of this work. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have selected the form that all of the data has come in on. So for instance, let's say I wanted to get all of the data that had come in from the Shakeout. You would just go to that form. So in this case, the DYFI map. And you can see there were quite a few check-ins that came in here. This right underneath here tells you the number of forms that you have received into your inbox in that location. And this has all of the mapping information, but there's two other places on here. One is over here on the right where it says export and import form data. And what this is for is if you wanted to export all of the data from the forms that came in on your machine, and you wanted to hand those off to another WinLink operator, and they wanted to be able to do the mapping of the data and work with the forms inside of WinLink. That's what you would use this section of it for. You would first export all of the data, and it would export all of these data. It actually gives you a little export window. We can set the date and time range where you want the exported data to include. And you can hit the browse button and navigate to a location on your computer and save that file out. Notice it's going to save it as a .txt file. And so when you export that data out in that format, it's going to take it in the format that WinLink is expecting to read those data in. And you can then send that file to someone else. They can then use WinLink using the same method, go to the import form data, select that TXT file, bring it into WinLink, and to be able to analyze the data. The other way to do it, and this is, I think, really the smarter way to go about doing the external data analysis, especially if you're needing to hand those data off to your agency that you're supporting, is to come down here and use this generate CSV file. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that option here. You can set the date range for when you want the data to come in. You can set how you would like those data delimited. So you can set it for comma delimited. You can set it for instance, tab delimited. In here, you can how you would like to format the date information that's contained within those forms. You can select that if there's a particular date format that the system that you need to bring those data into uses. You can select that here. You can say whether or not you want those data to come in and be converted into UTC time, or if you want them all set for local time. That's simply just a checkbox here. Now, down here, you can include only reports corresponding to markers shown on the map. This is if you had mapped the data and you had already created a small selection. It will actually only export that subset of the data. Right now, without that box checked, it's going to actually export all of these data for me. You can check this box, and what's going to do is it'll generate automatically a new CSV file anytime new reports are received. So this is a great way to keep your data up to date as an external exported CSV file. You then come down here and you can say where you want the file to go. I'm going to hit the browse button here, and I'm going to put this out to my desktop. Let's see. You can see I've got it set right now to export to my Google Drive. So that would be a great way if I was having to share those data with somebody. I'm going to come up here and just select my desktop right now as a simple location, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say this is the Coffee Bar Live demo, so I know what it's called, and I'm just going to hit save. It should load that. Demo gods are with me. Come on, demo gods. There we go. It's going to set that location for the file to go, and then I can just hit generate CSV right here. And once that does go, it should take just a second, and it says 1533 records were exported because that's the date range that I had selected, and it created that file right there. So I'm going to exit out of these windows quickly. I'm going to minimize my WinLink here, and notice I've got Excel installed here, but if you've got other spreadsheet programs, you're able to use those to bring in those data. So if I just double click on that file, if the demo gods are with me here, it should go ahead and just open that up in the program. So would you like to do any data conversion? No, don't convert any of the data because I'm just doing a little demo here of this. And if I make this a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit easier to see, you can see in the top row here, it comes in with all of the data fields that were inside of the form. And then underneath of that is all of the data that's coming in. And so you would be able to find the data that you needed to and work with it in some other program. Maybe you want to do some analysis of the data that was coming in, sort through it. You can, of course, do any of the things that you can do with a spreadsheet program like Excel or Google Sheets or any of the other ones that are out there. So that's kind of the easiest way to be able to get some data out of WinLink and to be able to start working with it. This is a great way if you're, say, working at an EOC and you needed to be able to hand those data off to, say, a GIS operator or something, and it's got all that location data information in there and you're able to work with it. So hopefully that helps with that particular question as a way to kind of get you started with exporting large amounts of data out of WinLink and being able to work with it in other applications. Again, in order to submit a question to us for the coffee bar, send it to CQ, go to cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar. It's a really simple form to fill out. And any questions that we don't get to today, we add them to the queue and we kind of take them in as the next time we do a coffee bar. But we also oftentimes will turn these into entire shows. So it's a great way to submit questions and show ideas to us at any point. This link is always live for you to be able to do that. And it looks like G0TRT is here in the Zoom with us. He says, thanks. Perfect. Excellent. The next question comes in. It says, I'm just started. This came from Kilo 7 Alpha Z Delta. And they say, I'm just starting to explore radiograms, specifically the WinLink radiogram forms. Is there any reason why one should be used over another? Does the fact that I am an ARL member but not an RRI member factor into the response? Please help explain. Dan, you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Sure. RRI is Radio Relay International, and I don't exactly understand the politics, but a couple of years ago, let me backtrack. There's the National Traffic System, which is related to ARRL, and they do regular nets around the country every day to accommodate passing radiograms across the country. Obviously, this is practice for a disaster, but it also allows them to do things like welcoming new hams who've received their licenses, which they do for practice. Anyway, a couple of years ago, there was some kind of a rift, and again, I don't understand it, but the national part of the NTS system fractured somehow, and RRI picked it up, and they're now doing the national part of the system, primarily digital, but not exclusively. And NTS still operates on more of a local level. That's my understanding of it. I'm not directly involved. I did do some NTS stuff years ago, but anyway, that's really the difference between the two radiograms. The RRI is designed specifically for operating within their system, whereas the radiogram that you see on the in the radiogram setting. So, I mean, we can do a new message here. We can select template, go down here to radiograms and RRI forms, and you'll see there's a radiogram dot text, and then there's several versions of the RRI radiogram. I would say unless you're operating in the radio RRI system, you're probably just fine using the normal radiogram .txt, which is this form here. This is essentially the ARRL radiogram form. The two are almost identical. I think the difference is there's some routing information in the RRI form that accommodates return messages and that type of thing. So if it were me, unless I were submitting this to RRI, I think I would use the standard radiogram form. The WinLink version of it makes it really easy to do that. For those that haven't done radiograms before, it sort of automates some of the things. Like one of the things it does is a word count. Here in the message text, you kind of want to keep it less than 25 words or groups. And as a check for accuracy, you want to count those word groups and put that up here in the checkbox. Well, in this form, that's automated, and it will automatically put that in there. That way, the recipient, if what they get, that number doesn't agree with what's in the checkbox, they know they need to check back and find out where the error is. So I think that answers the question. Unless you're submitting it for the NTS or RRI system, I would just use the radiogram. I hope that answers it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dan. Good job walking through that. Again, we like to bring this link up so that everybody's got it on a regular basis. cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar. And it's a great way to be able to submit questions and so forth to us. The next question that we have came in from Kilo Delta 6 LLB, KD6 LLB. Logan, can you explain what automatic link establishment ALE is, how it works, and how it's used? Boy, this is a big question right here. It's a really short question, but it's a really big one. Let me see if I can just start to answer this just a little bit. So
I think it's a whole show, Chris.
It's definitely a whole show, and I wanted to be able to touch on it because I know Logan has submitted this question the past couple of coffee bars, and we've kind of had to skirt around it a little bit as we've been doing some testing with it. But this past weekend, not this weekend, but last weekend, we were down at the Hamtastic event down in San Diego. And while we were there at that, we did have that portable station that I showed you in the bag, the 705 with the little amp that was set up. And we were doing some ALE from the beach, and it worked really well. So what is ALE? So ALE started off as a military tool for ships at sea to be able to identify the optimal frequency to be able to communicate on via HF radio. And it was very effective for that. In a nutshell, the way that it works, the ALE stations, you have a code plug that lists a variety of different frequencies that you're going to be operating on, and all of your operators in your group would have the same code plug, so they all know what frequencies to be able to operate on. Then the radio works, but some of the commercial land mobile radios do this built in. On the amateur radio side, we need to use a program called Ion 2G, and you can get to it by going to ion2g.app is the website to be able to get that application and download it. It's a pretty quick download, and it's available for both Mac, Windows, and Linux, which is a really nice thing. And so what you do is you get your common code plug, and if you register the copy of Ion 2G when you register it, I think the registration is about $20 or something like that. They'll send you not only the user manual for it, which makes a lot more sense when you get it, but they'll also send you an amateur radio code plug that you can load and get yourself started. You do all this normal digital setup for your radio. Actually, I can let me see if I can bring Ion 2G up.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
So I just registered my Ion 2G.
Yeah.
They didn't charge me.
There's a you can buy a specific license option on there for being able to do that.
Oh yeah, they sent me the code plug, the manual, everything, and I'm licensed on their software.
Sweet. Let me bring this up. So this is what Ion 2G looks like when you open it up. The screen is it starts off on the radio screen here. I don't have my radio hooked up right now, so we can't kind of walk through a full demo of it, but I wanted to kind of start to tease out a little bit of what's here. So you've got your radio settings, and that's what the control panel here looks like. And with the code plug, if I go over to, let's see, if I go into settings, and there's a variety of different networks that you can have set up here. Some of these are the amateur radio ones, and when you go into one of these networks, it'll show you this surface makes it a little tricky to scroll around here. It'll show you all of the frequencies that are listed out that it's going to scan across a variety of different bands that are there. And so what happens is the Ion 2G software talks to your radio. It's using in the background the FL rig data, so it's able to talk to pretty much any radio that will work with FL rig, as I understand it. And what it's going to do is it's going to make your it's going to make your radio start to scan and jump from station to station to station, frequency to frequency, as it rolls through all of these frequencies that are listed out here in the code plug. And it's just monitoring. It's acting kind of like a scanner. It's listening, and it's listening. If I go back over here to the radio, there's a waterfall option down here in the bottom. And what that would do if I had my radio connected here would actually show us a waterfall as that frequency is changing from one frequency to another. You'll see this weird little series of blocks here. What happens is about once an hour, there's a schedule that you can manage in here on certain frequencies. Depending on the configuration in here, each station who's running the program will actually put out a small ping. It's a very brief little, basically, hi, my name is, and what's happening is all of the other stations that are running, that are ALE stations, they're listening. And if they hear a station come in and they hear it put out their ping, it creates a quality index for that transmission, for that operating station. And it keeps a log of that. It creates an actual little database of all of the stations that it can hear and at the quality level that it can hear it. And so on that once an hour or so rotation through all of the pings, your station will ping on every single one of the frequencies that you're monitoring. So over time, if you're running the software on a regular basis, over time, what happens is your station builds up its own database of all of the stations that it can hear at the quality level that it can hear it, and on the band or the frequency that station is. So the way that this gets used is you can use a variety of different ways of communicating. You can do direct messaging, or you can use voice, and you also have a directory. So inside of your directory, you have a variety of stations that you may want to need to be able to connect to. And what you would do with that is when you connect, you say, hey, I want to connect to this station. It looks in its database of all of the times that it's heard that station at the current time. And it says, you know what, at this time, if we were to connect on the 40 meter frequency, it's the best optimal frequency. And the two copies of Ion 2G then your copy then calls the other station. The other station's copy will then, ALE station will respond back. There'll be a back and forth handshake of negotiation. And once all of that's created, inside of your Ion 2G window, you'll have a little thing that says link established, at which point you can do keyboard to keyboard talking back and forth. You can pick up the microphone and you can start talking. It works remarkably well. I've used it extensively on shares at this point to be able to test it. Amateur radio, you got to make sure you've got there's not a lot of stuff going on, because there is frequencies that are scattered across a variety of different bands. You need to make sure that your antenna is capable of operating on all of the bands. You can go in and you can turn off specific frequencies. So let's say you have an antenna that's only good on, say, 3 of the bands. You could turn off the other bands so that it's not going to automatically jump on those. You really want an antenna system that is resonant on all of those locations without having to necessarily use a tuner, because it is moving pretty quickly as it moves around those. So that is a kind of a high level of what ALE is. We are going to be doing a dedicated show on it. We're starting to work with some of the folks that are some of the regulars on the show. If you're interested in getting into our test group, send me a note. You can just use my call sign at wavetalkers.com, W6AH at wavetalkers.com. Send me a note and let me know if you're interested in doing, getting into some of the test group, so we can start playing with this, so we can do some actual demonstrations, because it takes a little bit to get it set up and to get it operating. But we do want to do some demos of that and kind of show it off. It works it's pretty cool. is kind of the best way to describe it. So hopefully that answers that question a little bit. Again, here's the link to submit another question to a cq.wavetalkers.com/coffee bar. The next question comes in from Kilo Fox 0 Fox Z Victor, and they ask, is VARA FM peer-to-peer computer just standalone, or can it also be an RMS in the WinLink cloud? This is an interesting question. I'm going to do my best to try and answer what I think you're trying to get at here. And we're going to go ahead and let me jump over to my PC. So I think what's coming in here is with WinLink, a lot of times I've described operating WinLink is if you have a regular email system that you use every day, that's kind of like driving an automatic transmission in your vehicle. When you're driving WinLink, it's a lot like driving a manual transmission. You've got to tell the program pretty much everything that you want to do and how you want it to be done. So a lot of times when we're sending messages up here in the open session window, if you click the drop down menu here, usually you see me on the show operating under Telnet. I've got an internet connection and we're pulling in a lot of traffic. It's learning to use WinLink starting off on Telnet is certainly the way to go. Once you become a decent operator with WinLink, you've got the button pushing, you've got the how to send messages and do the templates and all that fun stuff. Then go ahead and start branching out into using some of the RF methods that are up here. All of these that are here above this first line, these all connect to what are called RMSs, or radio message servers, and it allows those systems are all have an internet connection or may have an RF connection to other RMS gateways. And those will get your traffic, your WinLink messages. They will get them from your station, and they will get them up onto the internet into what's called the CMS, or the Common Message Server. And that will use the internet to be able to propagate those messages around at that point. It can happen all entirely via RF, but it's a very coordinated system to be able to deliver all of your traffic. So for the most part, most of the time, we're always using all of these options that are here above this top dotted line. Below that dotted line, all of these options here are basically a replication of all of the same methods here, but they all say P2P or peer-to-peer. And what a peer-to-peer message is instead of sending your WinLink traffic from one station into a gateway, so it goes up into the common message server and it routes through the internet and comes back down. A peer-to-peer message is exactly what it sounds like. It's you send your WinLink traffic from your station to some other station in a peer-to-peer configuration. So for instance, if I wanted to send a message just to Dan and I didn't want it to go out through the RMS gateways, or maybe there were no gateways that were available, both of us could choose to use the same method. Maybe we would use VARA HF peer-to-peer, where we actually have a mountain between us. So maybe we've got NVIS antennas and we could connect each other in that way. So maybe we would select VARA HF peer-to-peer. And when you do that, your traffic, both stations have to be configured in the same way to send that traffic back and forth. There are some options down here for radio only. These options really don't apply very much to amateur radio. It's much more targeted for shares and dedicated networks that have a lot more frequency access. There's just not enough space on the amateur bands really for us to be doing these. And there's not really a whole lot of need to be able to do that anyway. Telnet Post Office, this is much more for if you've got a mesh network or so forth. But these peer-to-peer ones, these are the ones that are kind of in question here. So the question really comes, can you do peer-to-peer and also have that on a WinLink gateway? Well, yeah, you can. So give me just a second here. I'm going to bring up my gateway up on screen.
Chris, while you're doing that, you can kind of think of peer-to-peer as simplex.
That's a great
you're going from one station directly to another without an intermediary in there. And another thing to point out, Chris, you talked about having to select peer-to-peer. Also remember that when you create a WinLink message, you have to mark whether it is going to a gateway or a peer-to-peer message. And if you, for instance, have a peer-to-peer message and you try to send it to a gateway, it won't go, and vice versa. So that's something to remember, that a message that you're intending to send by peer-to-peer has to be marked that way when you create the message.
Great point. So right now I have my amateur station on screen here. This is my client station. But if I go ahead and I switch over here, this is my gateway that I have up and running. You can see here I've got RMS relay running. Over on the right hand side, this is got RMS tri mode, and somewhere down here in the bottom of the screen, if I can get it so that I can actually see all the way down there. There it is. Here's this station is running VARA HF, and it's also got a PAC-Tor modem on it as well. And so it's scanning across 5 different frequencies currently as it's moving through, working in both of those modes. Now, can you do peer-to-peer at the same time? Yeah, well, I can actually launch WinLink Express here at the same time, and I can use WinLink Express to set up and get another message already set, ready to go. So I can compose the message. I can create a new message here. Of course, WinLink is giving me all kind of grief here. And see here at the top where it says send as, if you close the messages before editing the program, that's fine. If I click this message drop down here, I can send this as a WinLink message, radio only, or peer-to-peer message. So I would select that here in the message when it's ready to go. I can do all of the composing of the message, post it out to my outbox. But the problem is that your gateway at this time has control over all of your COM ports where your radio is. So one of the things you would need to do is you probably would need to temporarily either shut down your gateway, close tri mode and relay, go ahead and then do the open session. That would give your computer access to your COM ports and to your radio to be able to send it via the methods that you need. And then as soon as you send that traffic, you could then bring these back up if you wanted to do a peer-to-peer message. If you want to just do regular WinLink traffic, you actually don't even need to do that because one of the things that you can do is if you're doing WinLink on your gateway itself, you can use the telnet option. This is even if you don't have access to the internet, you can use the telnet option. And here in the settings, one of the things you can do is you can check the box that says use RMS relay, because if your copy of WinLink is running on the same computer as your gateway, then these settings right here, this 127.0.0.1 with the port, that is already the location of RMS relay that's running on that local gateway. So you can actually just set this up and hit update. And now when I would go through and hit send and receive, instead of calling out over the internet for finding out if I've got mail or submitting mail, it would actually just send it locally into this gateway. And then let's say the internet was not currently operational and the gateway is set up to automatically forward, that would just go ahead and take over and send that traffic out via HF at that point. So there's a lot of flexibility if you do have a gateway. I'm going to uncheck this option here, say update, and it's there. So hopefully that sheds a little light on the question. The biggest challenge with sending peer-to-peer on a gateway itself, if you want to use that method to be able to send that kind of traffic, is making sure you have access from the gateway to the radio and from WinLink Express to the radio. So that's hopefully that helps with that solution there.
And you could always have a second radio and a second sound card on that computer, and as long as the settings were different. Most PCs have more than enough horsepower to do 2 things at once. I run 3 gateways off the same computer, so it's perfectly possible to do that. Probably not best practice, but if you've got two unique setups, you could do that as well. Chris, that method you showed there with using RMS relay, I wasn't aware of that, so I learned something neat today.
It's a nice little trick that that can really be super helpful to be able to do that. Let's see, we've got let me see if there's any other questions that have just recently come in that I don't have slides up here for. Law pass. There's a question that came in that is actually pretty similar to this next question that came up here. This one was also submitted by Logan K86 LLB, and a similar question was submitted by W7GTM. You can see the one that Logan's got here. The one on screen, the one that W7GTM suggested was your show on FT8 for MCOM was a great hack on repurposing ham tools for MCOM. Thanks a lot for that. What's your experience with VARA AC by 4Z1AC? And that's pretty similar to Logan's question here. Can you explain what VARA AC and JS8 call are and how they might be used for emergency communications? Again, this is one of those, it really is pretty much an entire show that we would need to do in order to cover this topic here. But let me see if I can take a crack at explaining a little bit about what VARA AC and JS8 call are. They're two pretty similar tools. So VARA AC or VARA C or VARA Chat is a program. It uses the VARA tools. So the same ones that we're using inside of WinLink for VARA HF and VARA FM. And it allows you to do keyboard to keyboard real-time chatting back and forth. But it's using the VARA protocols underneath in order to send the traffic back and forth. Likewise, JS8 call is a pretty similar setup, except it's using the similar underlying infrastructure to what FT8 runs off of. Both of them are fairly similar at a high level. I know there are a lot of details that are very different between the two, but what they really allow for is allowing you to be able to connect with other operators in very low signal to noise ratios, so that you can get in there and you can send traffic back and forth. You get keyboard to keyboard. They both got some sort of a mail system to be able to drop off a message, pick up a message on the other side. It's a great way to help initially do, say, a call out or a coordination with other operators on your team. All of these tools kind of seem, in my mind anyway, seem to work hand in hand with each other. So I could really envision a situation where you're using tools like ALE to do that initial connection where you're trying to connect with operators and identify that optimal frequency to be able to connect on. Tools like the ALE tools allow you to then also switch off the ALE tool once you've identified that optimal frequency, and then use that frequency, that band, to then do other traffic on, whether it be something like a VARA AC, where you find that optimal frequency where you can then use it to be able to do much more reliable keyboard to keyboard chatting. Same thing with JS8 call. Be able to send, say, peer-to-peer WinLink traffic back and forth between those operators once you've identified that frequency. I mean, if you think about it, with HF, there's a lot of variables that goes into selecting a particular frequency at a particular time to find that optimal frequency. When you're playing the typical ham radio game, if you like to think of it as, I like to think of it as a game where you're trying to reach out, find the most distant station you can possibly reach to, try and hit that the least amount of power, the furthest DX station that's out there. When you start thinking about the world of MCOM, the game gets kind of flipped over a little bit because you're trying to connect from your location to another very specific location, whether that be to connect to a gateway, connect to other operators, or so forth. And so you need a different set of tools that allow you to have that more pinpoint accuracy to be able to make those connections. VARA AC, JS8 call, WinLink. WinLink, you may think of in, peer-to-peer as the place where you're trying to make those individual calls, but really when you start trying to make those gateway connections, you're trying to connect to a specific gateway at a specific location in order to pass your traffic, say outside of the donut hole or outside of wherever it is that you need to get. So all of these tools kind of work in tandem to each other to kind of come up with an overall package for doing emergency communications. And just like we were talking about with the ALE stuff, with VARA AC and JS8 call, we are looking for other operators that would be interested in helping us pilot some of these, get some working groups up and running. So when we actually demo these on an actual show, we've got a variety of operators that are scattered across the country and across the world that we can live demo with to make sure we've got traffic. So if you would be interested in doing that, send me a note again to my call sign at wavetalkers.com. That's W6AH at wavetalkers.com. And we're starting to put together those lists of folks to be able to do that. Let me go.
Chris, another thing that VAR AC does, I don't know JS8 call, but it allows file transfer.
Yeah.
So that's another real useful, again, it's pretty limited in size, but you can do it. And depending on what you're trying to accomplish, it may be a better tool than WinLink, although I think overall WinLink is probably the better tool.
Yeah, I think overall for sending those larger messages, WinLink is excellent for that. The JS8 call and the VARA AC, the real advantage there, in my view, and there's a lot of people out there with a lot of other impressions of this that have used it, is that keyboard to keyboard chatting that it's got in it. From what I've seen with the Ion 2G and the ALE, that is very specific, where you're going to either to one user, or you're creating a net of operators that you're working with. I think that may end up being a better tool even than some of these, but there are a variety of ones out there. So it's to go in and explore what works best for you and your team. Practice and use it. That's really the name of the game here.
And what you have and what you're competent with.
Yeah, absolutely.
A better tool isn't a better tool if you don't know how to use it.
And that's one of the things that I do like about VARA AC, is because it uses the VARA tools. You already have those if you're doing them for WinLink. So it's just another way to leverage that one application that you've already got that you can be able to use that with. I think that's most of the questions that we've had come in that we can go through. There are certainly quite a few others. I see King has a question about antenna switches. I don't have a specific one. Let me see if I can read that one out. It says, I'm in love with antenna switches. I have 3 radios in my Go kit, and the noise from the kit makes me an unwanted guest in the EOC. Please suggest an audio switch that I can run all of the outputs into and then switch to as needed. Oh, so you're not thinking, I thought you were thinking about an antenna switch. And you're really asking about an audio switch that you can route through different connections. So as far as an audio switch, so you saw in some of the GoBox pictures that I had, and also that that Scott showed, where there were multiple speakers set up for different radios. And that can be really helpful when you have multiple frequencies that you need to be able to monitor all at the same time. So you can kind of tune in, okay, this conversation's coming out of this speaker, that conversation's coming out of that speaker, this one's coming out of this one, and so forth. But when you're in a situation where you don't want all of that externally, maybe you want all of that going into your headphones. How do you manage that? One of the ways that I've managed that personally, and I do this when I operate shows remotely, I use a little small analog mixing board. There are a variety of them out there that you can get. And what you can do is you can route your radio or your computer's audio into the various different channels on a mixing board. Mackie makes them. There's a variety of ones that are out there. You can pick them up for pretty cheap. They're actually not very expensive. They're usually under $100 for kind of the smaller, like 4-port, 5-port mixing boards or so forth. You can run an analog audio cable into each of the different channels that are there. You can then use the panning tool. So you can say, like, channel 1 for this radio, I want this to go into my left headphone port. And channel 2, I want that one to go into my right headphone port. The third one, I want it to come into both of my headphones at the same time. And what you're doing at that point is you're using the computer that's in between your headphones to be able to discern where those signals are coming in, so you can start to identify what is going on. Another trick that I've used as well is I'll use the little wired earbuds, and I'll have a set of headphones that go over the top, and I might wear maybe one headphone up like this, and I'll have an earbud in this ear that's going into one computer or one radio, and then on the other side I'll have another earbud that's hanging in from another one, and then I can just have the outer side of the headphones that can be connected to say a third radio. By doing that, you can do that for essentially no cost at all, because you more than likely have a bunch of like old wired headphones from different cell phones lying around that you can plug in, and you just put one in each ear and you can kind of adjust the audio levels. Moving up to a mixer board, that tends to help a little bit better as well. So hopefully that will help you get going a little bit there on that. King.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
So I do exactly that when I go out for when I go out for NASCAR, because I do fire rescue for NASCAR, and we have to listen to multiple. We have to listen to a track radio, and we have to listen to a NASCAR radio. So what I do is I have a headset that has one radio going to it, and then I have molded earplugs underneath that I'm listening to, so I can actually listen to both radios, and then I have them keyed up separately. So yeah, it's definitely a different way to do it.
Yeah, this is the headphones that I have here. These are the Baradynamics DT77 Pros. They're a little bit on the pricey side, but they're not too bad. One of the things that I like about them, these are called closed back headphones, which means the can on them are completely solid. So they do a pretty good job of starting to cut some of the external sound out. They got these really comfortable ear pads. They cup all the way around your entire ear. So it makes it pretty easy to wear an earbud underneath of them, just run the wire up underneath of them. And they're a lot more comfortable. They're just straight analog. They're not the fancy Bluetooth, wireless, whiz bang, whatever headphones, but they're really good quality, and they really facilitate that ability to be able to put multiple radios in at the same time. It is definitely something that you need to train yourself to be able to do, because it can be pretty confusing to listen to multiple conversations simultaneously. You definitely want to use tricks like adjusting the audio output level on all of the different radios, so it creates a mix in your own head that is something that you're able to interpret, that you're able to work with. When you move up to something like an analog audio mixing board, I use both I have a small Mackie board that I think is a 6 or an 8 port unit that I use on a regular basis. I've also been using the Rodecaster Pro, which is a very nice board. It's very spendy. I use that professionally on some of the shows that I work. And that's nice because you only have one set of headphones that goes in, and you can create the exact mix that you want from all of the different radio input sources all at the same time. So you can have it nicely balanced for you to be able to manage that. And I see King's actually making a note that he's got the Heil Pro 7. He says he's not very impressed with it. I can't, I don't, these guys aren't a sponsor of mine, the Baradynamics. I have been using these headphones for almost 20 years now. This is my second pair of them. One of the nice things about them is the little foam pads You can buy a second set of those, and so periodically I'll take the second set of the foam headphones, the foam pads off, wash them, get them nice and clean, so that it's not too bad wearing them all of the time. They're really comfortable. You can operate all day long with these. Again, these are the DT770s. I'll put a link on WaveTalkers to all the stuff that we talked about today, for and add some down in the show notes for this as well. Spelling on Mackie, the Mackie boards, MAC. How do you spell? How do they spell them?
I think it's CHIE.
CHIE, Mackie board.
Somebody in the chat also mentioned inexpensive mixer.
Yeah, MACKIE. Yeah, and they're you can get them. You can pick these little 4-port ones up at Walmart for like $70. The one that I've got is it looks like it's probably the 8-channel mixer. Let me just bring this over. This is just at the top of the Amazon page. Just a search for them. Where'd it go? This is the one that I use. The Mackie Mix 8. That I've got. It's available from a lot of different places. They're about $100. These are the 4-port ones. I do like these because you've got a little bit more control with the little analog dials that are here. So just an option for you. You don't need any of the fancy bigger, badder ones. One of the nice parts about everything going digital these days is the price of a lot of this older analog gear has really come down. You can probably find these online, even used for really, really pretty cheap for those as well. Rory's using the Alexis Multimix 8. Thank you for listening to 8 inputs at the same time. Yeah, thanks. It can be a little exciting when you're having to listen to multiple conversations when you're producing a show, and you're listening to the green room, the back room, the people that are doing the tech checks, the live show, what's going on in the audience. It can be a little bit tricky to keep all of those conversations in your head at the same time. Sometimes I feel like I got an entire orchestra going on in here during a show. Anyway, we'll cut that off for now. For today with all of the questions. If you do have additional questions, go ahead and submit them, because we do look at the coffee bar form that comes, any questions that come in. We use that as a guide a lot of times for helping us put together additional shows that come up. Before we wrap things up, though, for today, certainly want to thank everybody who's been joining us. If you found any of this information helpful, be sure to go onto the YouTube channel, like the video, leave us a comment on there, because that really helps the algorithm with spreading the word. If you really find the stuff we're doing helpful, consider going on to wavetalkers.com. Use that buy us a coffee link, and we really appreciate it. It helps keep all the infrastructure up and running to keep the show up and online, and to create a new show every single week. I'm going to do a couple of more quick checks here to make sure we've gotten all of the check-ins that have come in. It looks like we've got a few more. If you haven't sent in your check-in, go ahead and do that now. And then we are going to bring up the map and map all of these to see where folks are coming in and checking in from around the world. And we will see that it looks like we've gotten them all at this point. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click on the little map icon, and I'm going to change the form, the selected form here. I'm going to come down to the WinLink check-in V5. That is the current version of the form that's come in. I'm going to hit the display map here. And it looks like I'm already zoomed in on Southern California, so I'll zoom in a little tighter on that. We'll take care of the folks here in Southern California. Let me check and make sure my filters are set correctly before we do that. And so we're looking at the last 24 hours worth of check-ins here. Let me blow that out to full screen. And looks like we've got Logan, K86 LLB. Thanks a lot for joining us. Quite a few others. K6COB, thanks a lot for joining us. W6LIK and 6WH. Hey, good to see you there, Liana, for joining us. Let me go ahead and zoom out. I'm going to zoom out, and we're going to go out to the global view, and we'll come back to zooming back in a little tighter. So let me right click and drag. Let's see if we've got Terry in here. And oh, it looks like we do. We've got Terry ZL1HOG joining us from New Zealand, station here. Victor Kilo 2, Sierra Kilo Yankee from Australia. Thanks a lot for joining us down there. Looks like near Sydney area. Come back up here, see what we've got in. We've got Roland joining us from Germany, Delta Golf 1, Germany Hotel Radio. This looks like Golf 0 Tango Radio Tango. Thanks a lot for joining us from the UK and submitting in a question to us. Really like seeing that. Sierra Mike 7, Yankee Tango November joining us. Thank you very much. Let me come back over here into the North America and zoom in on that so everybody's able to see the traffic that we've got coming in there. Here's Victor Echo 3 Yankee X-Ray joining us from Canada. Let's go ahead and roll over the other stations that are joining us from across the U.S. in various locations here up in the Northeast. This looks like Rory down here in Boston, Virginia. A couple of stations. There's Lloyd joining us here in South Carolina. Thanks a lot for joining us. Stations in Georgia and Florida down there. Great to see everybody in there. Let's come down here. Looks like we've got John KC5LAA joining us down there in the Houston area. It's like King KC7LOX. Come up here to Missouri. We've got a station, and over here in Southern Ohio, that looks like Ed, I believe. And I got to learn more of the names of everybody who's checking in all the time. I really appreciate everybody who does check in. Let me zoom in a little bit on the West Coast. We've got quite a few stations that are coming in over here. Station here in Southern Utah, and quite a few up here in the Pacific Northwest. Up here in the Seattle area. So great to see all of you guys joining us here. Looks like Bill, AC7SR, station here in Portland, KF7HOY. Down here in, this looks like the Medford area, I believe, KK7AZD. Thanks a lot for joining us up here in the Piedmont in the Sacramento area. Some stations here in the Bay Area, and then on down through the Central Valley, a variety of other stations. So thanks a lot. I think we've got the Idaho station. Did I get that? N7RGS and K7SGG. I think I got everybody. If I missed anybody, I apologize for that, but I think we got everybody logged in there. Let me jump back up and bring the guys back up to screen, and we will do our little closing thoughts here from today. And Dan, let's start off with you. Any closing thoughts for today?
Yeah, I was going to say, I had mentioned in weeks past that my group LA City ACS experimented during the Great Shakeout with using WinLink to do a mass notification. We'd had trouble with our city system. The majority of our members didn't get their notifications for at least an hour, which is unacceptable. So we did, I built a WinLink mail group consisting of all the email to text email addresses for all of the members of our group, about 81, I think. And when the Great Shakeout happened at 10:20, I sent that message out, and we did a poll on Groups.io to try to find out how well it worked. And I was going to report on that because we got about 75% of our members have now reported. And we had a large number who we had incorrect data on. They'd either changed phone numbers or changed carriers or both and hadn't let us know. And so obviously they did not get the alerts. We've corrected those. If you take them out of the equation, more than 95% of our members got a notification within 2 minutes. Probably 85% got it the same minute I sent it out. So it was spectacularly successful for notifying our members. The ones that received it beyond 2 minutes, one of them was out of the country. Two of the other two were out of the area. So it was most likely a roving or some kind of a service provider problem. So if you're thinking of doing that, it does work. And now that we've corrected the phone numbers for those that didn't get it, I think we can reasonably believe that a large percentage of our members will get timely notifications, and it's very easy to do. I just created a quick message template form, put in the address, our group address, and sent it. Put the text in. It even, that quick message form even counts your characters so that you stay under the 140 character limit of a single page text message. And so it worked great. And we're trying to get on the city's Everbridge system, which I think will be, it allows us more ways to contact people. We've been approved, but we don't know how long it's going to take to get that done. But it is either a secondary or a backup. WinLink worked great.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Cindy Albro. Sent in a super chat on YouTube for us. Really appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Cindy. We really appreciate that. Scott KM6 RFB. Another day of hosting. This is like 2 in a row. And any closing thoughts from you this week? This is your first coffee bar you've participated in.
It is, and again, great questions from a lot of people, and too bad we can't get to them all. We'd be here all day and all night. But a lot of good questions, a lot of good thinking went into a lot of these, and going back to what I kind of talked about with building cases. You can find a lot of these cases pretty inexpensively at swap meets. You can find them at Hamfest. I saw one at the last Hamfest up here, a 1610 case go for $30.
Wow.
And that's a phenomenal price for that case when it's well over $200. I've seen them on Facebook Marketplace. People had pallets of them going for $50, $60. So keep your eyes open. And for these cases, and they pop up, and they disappear pretty quick because people know what's out there, and just a little bit of creativity help you build these cases out can go a long way. And I'll show you some of my new stuff. I actually built a portable office out of a 1610 case that I'll have to show. I'll bring pictures of, but it's literally a mobile office. And it has a PoE switch in the bottom of it, and it all runs off of a Craftsman 20-volt, 8-amp-hour battery.
That's awesome.
And so a lot of good things out there, and creativity is the only thing that limits you guys.
I really enjoyed your comment and thought about the using the industrial Velcro. I think we could probably do an entire show on various uses of Velcro in amateur radio, or for the generic hook and loop. I mean, we're not sponsored by Velcro at all. I know that is a brand name for that. I use Velcro extensively in my studio. Most every single shelf that you see, there's Velcro on the underside of it, so I'm able to attach gear to the underside of pretty much anything. A lot of my gear ends up with a Velcro on it. I use it on the Go boxes to be able to quickly attach and move stuff around. I mean, there's so many uses for the stuff.
And Chris, you taught me another very good use for Velcro.
What was that?
The colored Velcro on the antennas. And I found this to be really beneficial at the last exercise we were at, because we all had the same radio. We were all running Motorola Apex 8000s, and you set your radio down, and well, which one was mine? Or my personal radio versus a cache radio. And by doing that, I know what radio was mine.
Instantly, right?
And it's a great idea, and I would never have thought about it until I saw you doing it, going, God, that's simple.
Yeah, we had one of the drivers for one of the vans who needed to be on two different radios, and they were like, "How do I remember which one is the right one?" So we put a Velcro tag on the one to talk to the command post, and the other one was the regular operating one. And she was like, "Oh, this is wonderful. Now I know exactly which radio to talk to who on." So it was a nice little quick hack that could be done. And then again, like we saw, we all had the same radios in the cache, so putting a little loop around those. I actually had two loops on my one radio because then it was like, oh, you and I had the same colors on there. Let's come up with another way of adding some differentiation to those. I see Dan's reached into the bin of all radios behind him.
Before LAFD went to the APX 8000 tri-bands, they carried separate radios for each band, and they used either heat shrink or tape colors. Red was for 800, which is their primary frequency, blue for the UHF, which is PD, and white for the VHF, which is their mutual aid stuff. So
I had one other thing. Hey, Rory, since you made a comment about my gas pump, I'm going to let you see the parking meter that's right there.
Stuff.
Oh,
and it still works. It may or may not have come from the city of Las Vegas.
May or may not. Okay.
Rumors. All right.
Another thing, Chris, you guys talked about Velcro, which is great, especially if you have to remove stuff. But if you're mounting something that's going to stay in there, 3M VHB tape will hold. I mean, it's strong. It's double-sided tape, but it's not something you'd use if you're planning on removing it anytime soon.
All right. With that, let's wrap it up. Let's say 7-3. If you want to join us for the after party for any of these, be sure to go to wavetalkers.com. Click the join us link. It's at the bottom of every page. We only send out one email a week, and we give you the link to be able to join us in our live Zoom audience, and then you're able to hang around for the after party, which can go on for quite a while. And we take questions as long as folks want to sit and ask questions. So thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see everyone next week, 7-3. Thanks a lot for everyone out there. See everyone.
Bye, everybody.